Good afternoon, White Plains. Good afternoon, everybody. It's 12 o'clock. It's time for our White Plains City School District community question and answers. I'm joined again by members of our team here in the district. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of the day to be with us this afternoon, to hear the questions that have been submitted through questions@wpcsd.k12.ny.us. Another really great batch of questions, and we do appreciate all of our community members and parents and guardians participating and engaging in this ongoing dialogue related to opening school facilities safely during a pandemic. We are joined this afternoon by Sean Lewis, Director of our Security Liaison, Scott Pepper, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, Debbie Hand, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Frank Stefanelli, the Director of Facilities and Operations, Sergio Alfonso, Director of Transportation, Ann Vaccaro Teich, Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations, Maggie Reciopo, Health Services Director, and Ed Mara, Director of Food Services. It's great to have everybody again this afternoon. Thank you for being here. Just by way of an update for all of our community members, I am going to start recording right now. Folks who aren't able to join us this afternoon live will be able to see this video at any time. It'll be posted on the district's website on the reopening page, and we'll also share it as well so that every member of our community is able to hear the answers to the questions that have been submitted. Of course, we will continue to have opportunities for folks to engage in dialogue and ask questions. I want to thank all the parents and guardians who have reached out to us, many hundreds of you connected with us, and we are completely committed to answering as many questions as we possibly can. I do want to recognize the anxiety and the frustration of members of our community. I know how challenging it has been to try and plan for a reopening of school facilities. I also recognize that on Monday, that was just another curveball, if you will, that came to our community as we adjusted our schedule for an additional 7 instructional days. That will be a so-called phased reopening where faculty and staff members will re-enter our facilities. Of course, there'll be schedules where children will be connecting with faculty and staff members, but children will be remote for those first 7 days of the academic year, with the 21st of September being the day, Monday the 21st, being the day, the first day of hybrid learning. So again, my apologies. I know how challenging this has been. We're going to continue to do everything we can to support you and to be as clear as possible and share information as quickly as possible with regard to the reopening of our school facilities. Also, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to share their thoughts, give their feedback, their constructive criticism. We want it all, and we absolutely understand it. I understand the levels of frustration. I know that parents in our community want to see our children all back in the classroom as quickly as possible. We do too. We absolutely do too. We also know that our numbers in our community in terms of COVID-19 and the spread and throughout the state are incredibly low right now. That's fantastic. It's exactly how we want to keep it. So everything that we're doing, just please know, everything that we're doing, all the decisions that we're making them in the best interest of what we believe is the best interest of health and safety for our children, for our faculty and staff members, and for our community. Thanks for your patience. We know it's not easy, but we do truly appreciate it. All right, coming at you in the next several days will be reopening community forums at all of your individual school buildings. And that'll be a great opportunity for parents and guardians to engage with the building level leadership, to ask questions about the typical school day, to ask questions about what the children's experiences are going to be like. And I want to thank in advance our team members at the buildings for making themselves available and for taking these opportunities to connect. If you haven't yet seen them, those dates are going to be posted both on the district's Facebook page and on the reopening website. And at the school level, folks will be reaching out to you to let you know when those times are that you'll be able to engage. So keep an eye out for those K-12 emails that'll be coming out. And again, if you haven't taken the time to update your K-12 information and your contact information, please do so now. It is going to be so important that we're able to communicate with you in a moment's notice. I know sometimes that's a hassle to update the K-12, but please do so now so that you're receiving all of the information that's being shared from the district. We're going to get right into the questions right now, and we're going to start out with questions related to remote learning First question was, could you clarify what the phase-in model will look like in the district? I just spoke about that a bit. There's also more information on the district's webpage, reopening website, sorry, and you received an additional K-12 alert yesterday. And principals at the building level will be talking with you about those first 7 days and how we're going to best use those, not only to engage in remote learning, but also get our children acclimated to how the academic year is going to unfold and some of the changes that have been put in place. Will parents receive workshops on how to navigate the platforms being used so they can best support their children learning at home? Yes, absolutely. Dr. Han, did you want to say just a little bit about that as well?
Yes, our subcommittee has been working on creating a plan so that we can put workshops in place and meetings at the school levels in place so that we can help the parents to navigate through the technology, through either one-to-one support or small group support or support depending on what your needs are. But we are planning that, whether through meetings or through webinars or through Zoom meetings as we're having now.
Thanks, Deb. You've spoken about the virtual option through the first marking period. This is parents choosing for their children to be completely remote, and we've asked them to make that determination through the first marking period. What time frame is that? If you visit your school's website, you'll be able to see what the time frame is for each individual school. They are different depending upon the grade levels. And again, we understand if folks aren't able to commit to the first marking period, but we are asking you to try, and that will help us with scheduling moving forward as well. How will virtual teachers manage their virtual classrooms? How will they make sure that children are doing what they're supposed to be doing? How about managing behaviors? How can they be doing all of that management online as well as in the classroom? Great question. And you identify the fact that remote learning, hybrid learning, is a challenging scenario. And I think we've talked about that now for months. I will tell you that our teachers are going to do their absolute best to engage our children, whether they are at home learning or whether they're in the classroom learning, much to the same effect as teachers do every day in a typical classroom when children are in there, keeping children engaged. However, of course, support at wherever home is, if it's at home or if it's in another spot where children are remote learning, will be welcomed as well. We know that it's going to be difficult at times for children, depending upon their age, to engage in a hybrid learning environment or remote learning environment. And we will continue to partner with parents and guardians as we move forward to make sure that we're managing those types of situations to the best of our ability. Now that the district has decided to go fully remote for the month of September, will there be an extended deadline for families who are deciding between remote and hybrid? This would give us more time to make an informed decision. So thank you for your question. It's important to note that the district is not fully remote for the entire month of September. It's 7 instructional days. We do ask that you make that determination as quickly as you can. Reach out to your child's principal. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have and certainly work with you there. For the 100% virtual option, how will assessments and evaluations be done to know what level for reading and mathematics that children are at? And I'll turn that over to Dr. Han.
Hi, our coordinators are working with the teachers to develop assessment plans so that we'll be able to measure any learning gaps that may have occurred and where we need to start with curriculum. I've also asked the curriculum coordinators at the secondary level to do an assessment of where students are entering for content area subjects so that if any content needs to be, adjusted before you move into the content that needs to be taught right now. So if you need prerequisites, that would be able to happen.
Thanks, Dr. Handon. You might as well stay unmuted.
Thank you.
Will there be one-on-one teacher-student live interaction during remote and hybrid learning?
Yes, depending on grade level, we have sample schedules out on the website on the reopening page. You might want to take a look at them to see, but we have synchronous opportunities and asynchronous opportunities throughout the day. And at the secondary level, each subject is actually broken into a combination of asynchronous, synchronous, and independent learning activities.
Thanks, Deb. We'll go ahead and put that link to the reopening page website in the Facebook feed. Mrs. Torres will take care of that, and you'll be able to click on that, save that in your browser so that you're on your phone so that you can go back and check that regularly. What will students who choose the all remote option be doing for the phase-in time from September 10th through the 21st? We envision that those children will be, of course, participating in remote learning, but there will also be an option if parents and guardians choose for interactions at the building level. You'll learn more about that from your child's individual building meeting. So please, again, take a look at the schedule for those meetings and make every effort to either be able to attend or view the meeting after it's recorded. For the online only option, or for the remote only option, how many hours of classes daily will be held? Again, just to review, parents and guardians, and Deb just mentioned, you can take a look at that mock schedules, but children are going to be expected to follow their learning day schedule each day. And of course, there are going to be modifications. We're not expecting that children will be sitting in front of a screen for 7 hours a day. But at the same time, the learning day is the learning day. So Monday through Friday, it's a school day, whether or not you are in a remote learning environment or whether you're in a hybrid learning environment. If you choose remote learning, will that teacher be strictly for remote learning students, or will the teacher be responsible for the students who are in the building as well? The child's teacher is the child's teacher. Whether or not the child is remote learning or whether or not the child is participating in a hybrid model, that schedule and the child's teacher remain constant. To what extent have teachers been training for asynchronous, not in person, or synchronous in real time teaching? What professional development has been offered? And is the district continuing professional development, and have we purchased subscriptions? Dr. Hand?
Yes, so we've done a plethora of professional development from March, continuing through June, and then throughout the summer as well. We've done professional development on hybrid learning design, as well as on the applications and the products that you could use, the platforms that you could use. So during the summer, I just had a list of the summer professional development that we offered to teachers, using Seesaw as a learning management system, intro to Seesaw, Schoology basics, intermediate and advanced courses, setting up for a successful remote teaching with Schoology, implementing Microsoft Teams for classroom instruction, using the Schoology Big Blue button for conferencing, K through 12 remote workshop on designing hybrid learning environments. That was a 4-day institute that we ran twice during the summer. And Deb Algarden also had specialized sessions for our special ed teachers, responsive classroom core course, responsive classroom advanced course, studying the skillful teacher, promoting motivation, learning, and achievement. That was offered through RBT, building engaging distance learning communities. That was facilitated by teachers, White Plains teachers, for grades 6 through 9, 7 to 12, and also for K through 6. At the superintendent's conference days, we will be running rotating sessions of Seesaw, Schoology, Schoology Big Button, MS Teams, SEL, and hybrid lesson design planning. And then as far as what applications that we subscribe to, they're too numerous. I know that the number is in the hundreds, but yes, we definitely subscribe to things like Edpuzzle, Screencastify, Screencast-O-Matic, LearnZillion, Flipgrid, I already said Play Post-it, but Padlet, we have many, Hit Collage, many different applications and products. And of course, our 2 large platforms that we'll be using are Seesaw and Schoology. So we have done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of professional development workshops, and we will continue to do so.
Thanks, Deb. Yeah, hundreds of workshops, and we'll continue to support professional learning moving forward. It is, of course, like everything else, it's an ongoing learning process, and our teachers have been committed to professional growth every year, and this is another example of where we'll be ready to do that as well. To what extent, how will teachers be supported in maintaining the proposed schedule for hybrid and remote learning? It seems like a huge undertaking to teach a live lesson and then check in with students at home. To my understanding, is that the expectation? And thank you for your question. And thanks for identifying that remote learning or hybrid learning during this time is a challenge. And I think you're absolutely right. It is a challenge. One of the ways in which we can support teachers is recognizing that challenge. So thank you for doing that. The other way we can support teachers is as parents and guardians, being in connection with them, letting them know what's working and what's a challenge at home, giving them feedback that they'll be able to incorporate in their practice. Certainly here at school, We will support all of our teachers in moving forward with hybrid learning and remote learning. We don't expect perfection at all in anything that we do, but what we do expect, and what you expect, and what our teachers expect, is a constant effort to continuously improve. We've learned a great deal since March 2020 in terms of what remote learning looks like, what works well, what doesn't work so well, how hybrid learning can be implemented. But I really do appreciate this question. And I can tell you, I know all teachers appreciate this question, because recognizing that just like our children, just like our community members, our teachers need our support. That's really important. Dr. Han, is there anything else that I may have missed?
No, we have to give them ongoing support too. One of the reasons why we have Wednesday as a remote for all day, so that in the afternoon, we can have asynchronous learning opportunities for the students at home. And then our teachers can continue their professional development and their collaborative planning. There are teachers at varying levels of ability, and we really need to be able to support each other so that we can all become that level of success, offer the greatest level of success.
Thanks, Deb. Will there be a different teacher who is teaching the fully remote class? Nope. The child's schedule and the child's assigned teacher is the child's assigned teacher. Will the teachers simulcast so that students from home may view the same lesson as their peers that are in school in the hybrid model? If so, will students who are remote be able to communicate with their teachers? I would assume not, because it would be difficult to monitor. My district, and I won't say the district's name, will simulcast. Thank you for your question. And these questions I understand are somewhat duplicative, but at the same time, I think it is so important to continually sort of reiterate, yes, there will be components during each child's class, each child's day, where they will be connecting with their teacher if they're remote that day. And yes, there will be the opportunity to make those connections. We won't be sort of doing just a live stream of class all day long. That's not, we don't believe, necessarily helpful for children, but rather structured lessons where the children who are remote are engaging with their teacher and their classmates who are in hybrid, who are in class, and then moving forward that way. Deb, did I cover that?
Yes.
Thank you. What are the requirements for teachers of asynchronous and synchronous learning per week? Has such a yes, again, ask you, and we will put this in the feed so that you can link to it on the district's reopening page. There are very clear examples of what a learning day will look like, so that parents and guardians may see what the expectation for the learning day is going to be. And again, when you have your meetings with your building level principals, they will go through what the days will look like. And when your children meet their teachers, the teachers will talk to you about what those learning days will look like as well. Good questions. Will students who receive AIS, Academic Intervention Support, be able to receive the service on their in-person school days? If the child is part of the fully remote class, how will that be given?
AIS will be done in a synchronous manner over technology, whether you're in school or out of school for the most part, because students are grouped together based on their academic need. So students are usually grouped across classrooms during that time so that a teacher can intensely meet through intervention, meet their academic need. So being that we are keeping students in cohorts, to be able to do that in school or out of school, they would be invited to that AIS group, and that would be done with children. So there could be children that are at home learning and children that are in school learning, being in the same group at that time of the day.
Thank you, Deb. Recent news reports discussed a reasonable timeline that would go well into 2021 for COVID-19 vaccines to be approved for children. Most of the current approval processes are for adults. And then to vaccinate all children. If the school district prepared to teach the entire school year curriculum using a hybrid model, if necessary? The AP, ACT, SAT all state that they plan in-person testing that contains full course content. Thank you for your question. While we are definitely taking the circumstances in our community sort of in a day-by-day, week-by-week, month-by-month fashion, certainly we'll be able to move forward with regard to the landscape. If we need to stay, we don't want to, but if we need to stay in a hybrid fashion, we can do that. We will do that. We will cover the standards and the expectations for our classes. Of course, the academic expectations and the rigor are again, different than were at the end of the spring last year. And we've talked about that in the past, and we'll talk about it again when you have your meetings at your schools. So whatever the scenario is, we're prepared to move through it. And certainly in terms of AP, ACT, and SAT, as well as the regents, we're still watching to see how that's going to play out. And in terms of high stakes standardized assessments at the state level, we'll continue to update you as we know more as well. What if power connection to the internet fails in our home? Is there a procedure for this possibility and communication to families? During the Isaias storm, we lost all communication for a week, including access to cell phones. Wasn't clear to me during the meeting on the 18th. Are all children, all students receiving iPads? Oh, so multi-questions. So if we have an emergent weather event, we'll handle that just like we would, and of course support our families depending upon what the needs are, like we experienced in the past with emergent weather events. In terms of receiving iPads, yes, all children who need technological devices, iPads, will receive those devices as well as other materials that they're going to need for school. Assuming more than one child in the household, if we have 2 children, will we get 2 iPads? Yes. What are the iPads being installed with? They have the applications, every application that your child will need to be able to participate in class. And thank you very much for your question, and thanks for your willingness to donate to others. Very nice. During hybrid, may we change to full remote if we're not comfortable with the model? Yeah, you just need to reach out to your principal and talk to us about what you're experiencing, if maybe something that we can fix or help with. Happy to do that, but if you have a situation at home where you need to switch to a hybrid model, or rather a remote model, yes, please. Can you please clarify the phase-in process? Can we expect all students will start the week of 9/21? I think we talked a bit about the phase-in and how that looks, and there's also additional information, and all children will begin in the hybrid model beginning on Monday, the 21st of September. Moving on to health and safety. Thank you for your questions. Moving on to health and safety. Nurse Maggie, Deb, you can mute now. Will there be temperature checks upon the arrival to school?
Well, the parents are expected to temp their children prior to coming to school. And also they're going to fill out a health screen form, which will be online. And that's pretty much it. If the parents forgets, or the thermometer breaks, or they send their child in and they forget to answer the questionnaire, or they can't take the temperature, they simply have to call, and we're more than happy to take the temperature. If the teacher feels that she needs to take the temperature, they can send the child to the nurse, and the nurse is more than happy to take the temperature on the child. But the state really wants the parents to take the temperature before the child gets on the bus.
Thanks, Meg. We also have temperature testing kiosks at all of our buildings, and we will do random temperature testing periodically throughout the day. But I want to just reiterate, as I've said in the past, the most important thing that we can do to keep our facilities open, to keep our community healthy, is when we're not feeling well or when our children aren't feeling well, that we stay home. Please make sure that we're monitoring for symptoms in our households every day. How will the cleaning of bathrooms be handled, or restrooms be handled in all schools? How many times a day will restrooms be cleaned? Mr. Stefanelli.
Thank you. Well, we've revised our specifications for cleaning, and we also frequently touch surfaces. So the restroom surfaces that are frequently touched, we're scheduling to do them late in the morning before kids go to lunch. So that's after the kids have come in, use most of the restrooms. And then we plan on doing something late in the afternoon, just before they're leaving for the school day.
Thank you. High touch areas all throughout the facilities are going to be regularly cleaned, as well as, of course, opportunities throughout the day for children really at any time to wash their hands. And as Frank has mentioned in the past, there will be hand sanitizer stations in every classroom for children and faculty and staff members to access. Will students and teachers be tested for COVID-19? Great question. A question that's been coming up a lot. While we are working in conjunction with partners to be able to help families have access to COVID-19 testing should they require it, the school district is not in the position to be able to require COVID-19 testing wholesale for all children and teachers. We can tell you that we are working with our community partners in the medical field, as well as other partners who are in the testing field, to come up with new ways, novel ways to be able to offer access to testing. But to this particular question, there isn't a blanket requirement for COVID-19 testing prior to children and faculty and staff members coming back to school. Maggie, did I hit that all okay?
Yep.
Thank you. How soon will parents know if their child may have been exposed? And that's a great question. And the answer is as soon as we possibly can let you know. And Maggie, could you talk a bit about the contact tracing and protocol?
Yes, if we know that a child is exposed or we know that somebody is positive in the classroom, the first thing that we're going to do is call the Department of Health. The second thing that we're going to do is we're going to start making the phone calls to anybody that is exposed. We're going to close that classroom down, and we're going to make sure that everybody gets taken care of as soon as possible. I have a lot of staff at this point that has been trained in contact tracing, and we're committed to making sure that we do it as quickly as we can.
Thanks, Maggie.
You're welcome.
Will the students need to have remote learning for the 14-day quarantine? So in other words, I'm going to assume that if a child needs to be quarantined for 14 days or any number of days, would that child have access to remote learning? The answer is yes. The hope is that we will be able to move in and out of these various models of instruction, dependent upon what is happening in the landscape, as seamlessly as possible. So if a child needs to be quarantined for a period of time, having access to remote learning is an important function of our reopening plan. Moving on, a question related to special education. My child is in one of the schools in a program that receives services. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure it's not, there's no identifiable information. Will my child be able to receive services via remote learning? During quarantine, there wasn't access. Will services be provided during remote learning? And the answer is absolutely yes. Thank you for your question. If your child receives services, your child will receive those services moving forward into the fall. I will encourage you and welcome you to reach out to Deb Algarten in the Department of Special Education and Pupil Services. If you have any particular concerns related to your child's program, we'd be happy to help. But the answer to the question is yes, children will receive related services as we move into the fall. Social and emotional. I'm wondering about how remote students are able to establish and develop relationships with their teachers and peers. I'm hopeful that they'll still feel included and connected with the school community. Will there be chances for meetups? Thank you for your question. That's certainly something that's on our minds as well. We know that children whose parents and guardians choose remote learning for them still need to be connected with their classmates. They absolutely still need to be connected with their teachers. They will have those opportunities to connect virtually, but there should also be opportunities to connect face-to-face, physically distanced, all the appropriate health and safety precautions taking place. But that really is up to you as a parent or guardian as to your comfort level in taking advantage of those types of activities. And as we move forward, hopefully we'll be able to have more activities like that because our numbers will stay low. Dr. Hand, did I hit that okay?
Yes, and even though that came in under special education, that would be true for all of our children. We definitely want our remote-only children, our hybrid children. Everybody needs to feel part of the class. One of the reasons why we decided to go with the full schedule and to go with the classroom teacher that you would be assigned is going to also be your hybrid teacher or your remote-only teacher.
Thank you, Deb. These questions are related to general information. Please clarify the dates for the marking periods. It's not clear from the school calendar what the dates are. You will get a school calendar is going to be coming to you very shortly. Mrs. Schoenfeld did a really great job, as she always does annually, putting together a beautiful calendar that went to the printer on Monday. So you'll be getting the school calendars, which will denote the marking periods, and they'll also be on the website as well. But they follow the same typical marking periods as in previous years. Will we be receiving a school calendar, hard copy this year? Yes. We pay property taxes. If we do go all remote, There will be a significant savings in school operation expenses. How can we get some form of monetary relief to cover home remote learning expenses since we need someone to sit with our child 5 days a week? We have been getting quotes from $800 to $1,000 per week. Even a local agency wants to charge $840 a week for 3 days. Thanks for your question. Absolutely, we understand that this is an unbudgeted expense for parents and guardians with regard to childcare. In one respect, I will tell you we are advocating very strong with our counterparts at the state level for relief for parents and guardians in the form of a child care tax credit. We would like to be able to see that come to fruition. We'll continue to advocate for that. We think that that's important. We think it's part of a much broader approach to making sure that parents and guardians are supported as school facilities reopen during this period of time. Also, with regard to school operations, and I'll let Ann Vaccaro-Tice jump in here, we are understanding and more so each and every day of ways in which we can support our community members moving forward with regard to the expenses associated with not only childcare, but also with regard to the economic downturn. Ann, do you want to go ahead?
So I'll just provide an update as to the fiscal crisis and the stress that school districts are going through at this moment. You know, as part of the state enacted budget for 2021, there was a pandemic adjustment made by the state for all school districts, and the thought was that the federal CARES monies would fill that gap. However, when the federal CARES application came out this summer, it was clear that those federal dollars are only for COVID-related expenses, and that it would not fill our pandemic adjustment. So there was a reduction of $1.6 million to the district's budget, or 5.6% in state aid, and we made those reductions in the 2021 budget. But for the COVID-related items, such as the instructional supplies to send home to children, providing PPE, personal protective equipment, cleaning and disinfectant equipment, supplies, sanitizer, all those things, we think that we're going to exceed almost $5 million in expenses related to the reopening of the district and to provide the remote learning and in-person hybrid. In addition, the current status of the state budget is that the state is looking at a $10.1 billion shortfall for 2021. And that means an $8.2 billion reduction for local assistance programs, which includes state aid for school districts. And we're already seeing that we have a 20% reduction that was promised by the governor if the federal government didn't step in to give relief to the states. So any state aid payments that we're expecting now have a reduction of 20%. And that's for like special education reimbursement expenses or pre-K programs, services that we get through the BOCES. So that is taking place now and going to impact school districts. And if it becomes permanent, we're talking about a 20% reduction, which is $6 million reduction in the district's budget for 2021. And long-term outlook that they're indicating that this can go through 23, 24. So before it would ever recover to the pre-COVID-19 20 levels, we're talking about 3 years, potentially 6 million plus reduction in each of those years, in addition to the 1.6 million that's already occurred. The state has also reported that the gross domestic product has shrunk by 32% in the second quarter for 2020. And this is the steepest decline in 70 years since they've been doing the reporting. And the last piece of information that has been reported is that the consumer price index for 2020 is looking at 0.7%, which is significantly less than the 2% that we're allowed to have on our tax levy cap going forward, which is usually limited to that 2%. That equates to almost $2.5 million that the district could be seeing as a reduction in its tax levy for the subsequent years. So the economic outlook is very dim if we do not receive federal assistance.
Thank you, Ann. We have been and we will continue to advocate for the state of New York for federal assistance so that school districts, public school districts, and also all of the other healthcare and transportation and infrastructure are not severely impacted. We'll keep doing our advocacy. Is school going to be the same schedule as before, or is the district changing hours? School days that they're going to be following the same schedule. There may be some changes in terms of staggering arrival times and such, and any changes like that, which would be minor, will be communicated with you at the building level. Are kids getting breakfast or lunch at school, or do we need to send them ready with their own foods? Mr. Merritt?
Yes, on a daily basis, in every school building, breakfast, it's going to be a cold grab and go will be offered. For lunch, an option between a hot or cold lunch will be offered.
Thank you very much. And just a reminder, as Ed has reminded, please take the opportunity, if you've not done so, make sure you fill out the applications for free or reduced lunch. Everyone should fill them out and send them back in so that Ed and his team can process them as quickly as possible. Mr. Pepper, have enough teachers committed to returning to the school facilities? Will teachers be able to deliver synchronous lessons from home?
So we're currently in the process of determining how many teachers are in need of a leave of absence. We're working on that this week. And the current model and the current plan is for teachers to teach remotely from their classrooms, not from home.
Thank you, Mr. Pepper. For dual language students and their families, will there be any additional support for those students who do not come from homes that are fluent in both languages?
First, the lessons need to be designed in a way that they're supportive to children so that they are teaching children the language and the concepts and the objectives that they need to be able to apply that to their independent work or their small group work practice components of the lesson. That's the first thing. The next thing is that Wednesdays will be designed as a bridge Wednesday, and the students will either be in dominant language groups or in their new language group and to be offered that extra support. So we're being very careful with dual language. I know that I want to meet with the teachers and make sure that they feel supported, but those are the plans for right now. I know that Church Street School has already had some parent meetings for dual language, and I think that that might help answer some of your questions if each one of the schools that have a dual language program have meetings set up for parents to answer those questions individually.
Thank you, Deb. When will a final schedule be approved for the start of the school year? Families need to know and plan. It seems that we're starting with phase-in. I'm also wondering how New York City can start without a phase-in, but it seems necessary for our city with approximately 20 active cases of COVID-19 to begin this way. So the schedule right now is final in terms of how we're approaching the opening of facilities. Your child will be receiving their schedule in the coming days from their buildings. And again, building level meetings will serve as a conduit for you to learn about the reopening of the facility within which your child attends school. In terms of phasing in New York City, unfortunately, I can't speak for the city. I do know, I believe that there are still ongoing conversations on how the city is going to approach the reopening of the facilities, but unfortunately, I can't comment on it. With regard to our community, we're not opening in a phased manner because our numbers are high. We're opening in a phased manner at seven additional days because we think it makes sense in terms of being able to move into the processes that we're going to need to apply for our children, at least during this portion of the academic year. And those are going to also come with them some new modalities that children are going to have to learn. When they enter into our school facilities, the expectation with regard to health and safety is going to be very different. Having the opportunities to understand the protocols related to health safety, having the opportunities to understand how the flow, for instance, of traffic in a hallway is going to look, or how physically distanced classrooms are going to operate, or how children are going to be able to interact with each other or not, dependent upon the health safety needs, is going to be important. It's also going to be important for us to be able to get technology in the hands of our children and make sure that everything is ramped up to begin our hybrid model of instruction or remote, dependent upon the choice, in earnest on the 21st. Thank you for that question. How are parents and guardians' opinions factored into decision making, especially since over 50% of the parents want their children doing in-school learning? Thanks for the question. We are doing everything we possibly can and trying in every way to take all of the recommendations and requests and constructive criticism offered from parents and guardians and community members, as well as stakeholders here in the district, students as well, and bring that into our thinking process. We've been doing that. We know that many parents want in-person instruction. We want in-person instruction. And that's why you're seeing the hybrid model. As somebody in a questioner mentioned earlier, we read the question earlier, teaching in a hybrid model is definitely a challenge and will be a challenge. But we believe it's important for parents and guardians who want their children to have the face-to-face experience with teachers to be able to engage in that. We have taken into consideration many requests and thoughts and recommendations that parents have sent along. And that's why parents have been a critical component of our reopening committees as well. So while we can't always accommodate every single request, we are making sure that those voices are heard loud and clear, and we'll continue to do so moving into the future. Thank you. Questions related to universal pre-K. Will universal pre-kindergarten also not go in person until 9/21? If that date's extended, will UPK also stay remote until the district start date? Dr. Hand?
UPK will be starting as scheduled. We will not be phasing in. They'll start on, I guess they start on that Wednesday, that first Wednesday.
Thank you. My child will be starting pre-K, and when I spoke to somebody at the school, they told me that they would be in 5 days a week for full days. She said there are a number of students in class sitting at tables, but there are no partitions. My question is, do I have the option to send my child in for half days or for half the week? And why is pre-K not following the same protocols as the rest of the district?
The pre-K is following the protocols that they are given by the office that runs the child care unit. So that regulation is that they can have up to 16 children in the classroom, and even with social distancing and with not wearing masks, it's hard to keep younger children from social distancing. So we'll be hand washing, sanitizing, social distancing when possible, wearing masks when possible, and also making sure that we are not reusing toys and materials, trying to limit them so that we can clean them and wash them, and make sure that they are disinfected for future use. I know that each one of the pre-K providers has submitted a plan to us, and I think from some of the pre-K questions, I'm going to say the same thing I said with dual language. It would be really important for us to have a separate meeting with the pre-K parents so that we can answer all of the questions.
Thanks, Dr. Hand. Will kindergartners be expected to wear masks all day? Yes, kindergarten students, all children will be expected to wear masks. There will be mask breaks. There will be opportunities for children to take off their masks and take breaks, but children are expected to wear masks throughout the course of the academic day. What platforms will teachers be using for lower grade instruction?
Their learning management system, depending on the school, will be Seesaw, and I think it actually goes into what synchronous application will be used. And we have MS Teams in the early, in K1 and 2, we don't have Schoology. In the upper elementary grades, we have Schoology, so they could use the Schoology big blue button. And we're also looking at Zoom. We weren't considering Zoom because they weren't Ed Law compliant, but they actually are now Ed Law compliant. And I know that there's been stories out there of Zoom bombing, early on in the spring. And that's really because the security features weren't appropriately used. And with the current security features, Zoom is also a platform that we can consider using. And I know that our teachers feel really comfortable with that platform as well.
Thank you, Deb. If we choose remote learning for our child, will our child be assigned to the same teacher that they would if they were in person? Will that teacher be a teacher in the grade at the school? And the answer is yes. It's going to be the same teacher. Every child is going to be part of a classroom community whether or not they're going to be participating in hybrid or whether or not they're participating in remote, it's the same teacher. Questions related to high school. Will there still be regents this school year for our students? Dr. Hand?
We haven't received any information from the state that there wouldn't be regents this year, so we are moving forward as if there are going to be regents. I think that that would be very important, and looking at how we can prioritize the standards that and the content of those courses so that we can prepare the children in whatever environment we're in, whether it's remote or hybrid, or if we're lucky enough to come all in person, that our children are ready for those assessments.
Thank you. My child is hybrid learning. Will the school let him know which day in advance my child has to go to school? Yes, absolutely. Every child will get a schedule. New York City and Yonkers, among other districts, have indicated that remote teachers may be from other schools. I'm not aware of that. I'm just reading the question. Would you provide more information regarding the White Plains City School District plans for remote instructors? Also, if this is the case, how will partnerships with other schools be selected? I think as we talked about before, our teachers are our teachers, so your child's following a schedule and the child will be with that teacher. There won't be teachers from other buildings, cross buildings at this time. On last Friday's town hall, if I heard correctly, you stated that at the high school, students would be eating their breakfast in their first period class. In order to eat, the child must take off their mask. Would that increase the COVID infection transmission risk inside those classrooms, even with 6 foot distancing? And are there alternatives? Maggie, do you want to take that?
There was a reason why we really decided to do 6 feet. And we decided to do that to make sure that we had safety, you know, in the forefront. So we wanted to make sure that we did 6 feet and masks. When we have kids eating, they're gonna take off their mask, eat, put their mask back on, and use a Purell. When we don't want the kids to eat for the whole half an hour, you know, while they're getting their lesson. So the instruction would be eat, finish when you can, you know, as soon as you can, put your mask back on. The biggest, most important thing is that we don't have them over 15 minutes without their mask on, you know, off. So what I would like would be, you know, 5 to 10 minutes, eat what you have to eat, put your mask back on and clean your hands. And older kids are able to follow that a little bit better than the younger kids. So I think that it's a doable thing and it's safe.
Thank you, Maggie. These questions are related to middle school. Has there been thought given for teachers to alternate classrooms instead of students to eliminate hallway density and reduce spread? The answer is yes. We absolutely did think about those types of scenarios. Dr. Hand, do you want to talk about how we maintain the schedule a bit so that children could take classes?
With social distancing, as we've been saying, that we wanted to make sure that we can maintain a robust and the regular schedule for children to the greatest degree possible. In order for that to happen at the secondary level, students will need to change classes, and we're doing that in, you know, a very safe and manner that's following social distancing and making sure that, you know, our classrooms are appropriately prepared as we go from each section, from one section to another. I guess Frank can talk a little bit more about that, but in consultation with Maggie and Frank, you know, changing classrooms is appropriate to do as long as we have, you know, it as a cohort, that children are moving as their cohort together, and we already have them cohorted based on the amount of students that we're bringing in a group on any given day.
Thanks, Deb. Will 50+ Eastview students be eating lunch in the cafeteria? Is this within the DOH Department of Health guidelines? And will there be an option to eat outside or maybe in a classroom? You want to take I'll answer that one. So yes, we're utilizing the cafeteria at Eastview and in all of our facilities. It's important to note that cafeterias are going to look very, very different this year. So that children understand and parents and guardians understand, children are going to be physically distanced even in the cafeteria. Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, also, Eastview, not too long ago, about 5 years ago, we went through a complete renovation. So we renovated the ventilation system. The cafeteria also has air conditioning, and it completely has windows all around. So it's almost like an open air. So there's plenty of ventilation for the space.
Thank you. And it is within the Department of Health guidelines. If a teacher is subject to quarantine, but the teacher is not ill themselves, will the class still be taught by that teacher, just with the teacher being fully remote? If not, how will a substitute teacher be assigned? I'm concerned about the continuity of learning and the quality of teaching. Some substitutes are excellent, but some are not. And while a less skilled substitute is fine for a day here and there, we couldn't see that replacing a teacher for a 14-day quarantine. Will the substitute be qualified to teach the subject within which they're substituting? Or might we find ourselves in a situation where a substitute in, say, a world language class is unable to teach the language? Thanks to the questioner, thanks for the question. It's a good one, it's a complex one. First, I'd like to say to everybody who's a substitute teacher, thank you. We know how difficult and challenging filling in a moment's notice for an academic classroom can be. So thanks for that. We have a really wonderful group of substitute teachers who are part of our educational community, and we are appreciative for everything that they do. Also understand the questioner's concern, because particularly as you move into more complex disciplines, it becomes difficult for anybody to be able to jump into a classroom and pick up where the regular teacher is left off. We are working with our substitute teachers to be able to provide them with support. We'll also be working with our teachers to make sure that if there is a situation where a teacher, just like in a traditional environment, needs to be out for a period of time, that we do have an alternative to be able to provide instructional support for our children. So to the initial question as to whether or not when a faculty member, God forbid, should need to be quarantined, could they still engage in remote learning? The answer is it could be, they could. It could happen. There are also going to be times where that's not appropriate and that won't be able to happen. It really depends on the situation. So appreciate the question. That is one of those complex situations that we're going to have to take one by one as they come up. Mr. Pepper, if I didn't hit that appropriately, or Maggie, if I didn't hit that appropriately, feel free to elaborate.
And I just wanted to say, and if the teacher becomes ill, then of course the teacher is going to be home resting. So, you know, it really is going to be a very situational thing.
Thank you.
I agree.
Thanks, Mr. Pepper. After school programming, is there going to be any after school programming available? Is there going to be any childcare for the parents that work full time and have no one to take care of their child at home? Thanks for the question. This is a very important one, and one that's on the minds of many of our parents and guardians. Right now, there will not be any in-person after-school activities in our facilities at the end of the academic day. Our schools will be closed for cleaning daily. We hope moving forward that we will be able to have in-person after-school activities, but we're going to have to take that as it comes. We are working in conjunction with the Youth Bureau. The Youth Bureau is putting together a really robust and exciting remote engagement platform for after school, and there'll be more information coming out from the Youth Bureau. I do know there are a number of community organizations that will have after school activities, and this questioner talks about the YWCA and the YMCA. So there are activities that will be available, many of which will be, again, diminished density, fewer students to make sure that they're within the guidelines. We know childcare remains a challenge. We are partnering with the Westchester Child Care Council. There is information on the district's reopening website to reach out to the council, as there are many opportunities for childcare that exist. It's just trying to put those folks in contact with the right organizations for their family. Please check out the district's website and reach out to the Child Care Council. They are willing and able to help. Transportation. Is the district providing transportation for our children? Mr. Alfonso.
Yes, of course, transportation will be provided, and those schedules will be going out within the coming week.
Thank you very much. And there are some steps that are being taken, of course, on our school buses to ensure safety. Mr. Alfonso, do you want to highlight some of those real quick?
Sure. So we're going to be distributing school ID cards, which will be a bus pass, so to speak, for when students get on the bus, they'll be able to scan on and off. So we'll be able to gather that data in the event we need to contact trace, and it's going to help us with our attendance. Our buses will also be operating at a safe physical distance, and we're partnering with our transportation provider to make sure that the buses are clean and disinfected every day.
Thank you very much, Sergio. Sean Lewis has been doing a great deal of work, not only with operations, but also in partnership with the White Plains Department of Public Safety to ensure that arrival and dismissal times are orderly. Sean, thanks for all the work that you've been doing. You want to speak a little bit about those meetings?
Yes, it's important just to recognize, what is it that you can do as a parent to help us with those arrival and dismissals. First, make sure you're paying attention to the communications that your principals are putting out there. Make sure your contact information is up to date. There'll be some adjustments to times and different things depending on which school your child will be at, and allow for extra time. Certainly driving in, you're going to need some extra time, and we're going to do the best we can to get everybody there safely.
Thanks, Sean. And as everybody knows, typically during the opening of school annually, it's always sort of an adjustment period. So even in the best years, right, there's always an adjustment period. So we can expect that there will be that adjustment period this year as well. Of course, safety is the most important thing. So once we open school facilities, and remember, remote for all beginning on the 10th of September, and then hybrid for all beginning on Monday the 21st. We want to make sure we're being aware of our surroundings while we're traveling, while we're driving, keeping a lookout for children in school buses, very important. Thanks, Sean. When children are not in school, there's been questions related to will they be able to access food? And we are working, as we had in the spring, to be able to make sure that our children have access to food. Ed, did you want to just touch on that real quick?
Yes. For remote learners on a daily basis, we're going to have distribution at each building on a daily basis, and parents and students will be able to access any of the buildings to get those meals on a daily basis. It's going to be a grab and go breakfast and lunch as we were doing all throughout this process.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mara. That brings us to the end of our questions for today. We will have question and answer opportunities moving forward as well. I will continue to keep giving you updates and letting you know everything I know as quickly as we know it. And I know sometimes that brings, again, a little bit of anxiety for some folks, because if I can jump on and tell you something live immediately, it takes a little while then to get that K-12 email. And I appreciate your patience. For folks who don't use Facebook or who don't use social media, I understand that sometimes can be a little bit of an annoyance, and I apologize for that, but I do want to make sure that we're leveraging every single possible modality to get information all throughout our community, wherever people may be. So we are going to continue to do that. We will continue to send the traditional email updates via K-12. Again, please remind community members to make sure that their contact information is updated so that they're getting all of the most recent information. You're going to be hearing from your child's schools, if you have not already, regarding the upcoming meetings for the facilities, and there will be more opportunities to connect together as we move into the academic year. White Plains is in a very strong position. Absolutely, there's going to be areas that are imperfect. Absolutely, there are going to be areas that we're going to learn and grow from. But I want to share with you this. I have heard, again, and spoken with, and it's a pleasure, thousands of people. And I do appreciate that opportunity. And I appreciate folks giving us constructive criticism. I appreciate people telling me, Joe, I know what you all are trying to do is keep our kids safe, keep everyone safe, but I disagree with the approach. Thank you. I understand that. But please know that in everything that we're doing, we really are doing this to try and open our facilities in a manner that's going to keep cases of COVID-19 down. That's the end goal. We want kids back in the classroom. We want to return to full classrooms with all of our children. The way to that, the road there, is to make sure as we initially come back into school, if we see spikes in COVID-19, we're able to respond immediately. That's going to be the critical point between a couple of days being closed and full remote learning for months. None of us wants to be in that position again. So I appreciate the flexibility. I appreciate the understanding. On behalf of the Board of Education, thank you for continuing to partner with us. White Plains is a very special place. We have a tremendous community here. We are all blessed to be part of it. Stay safe and stay WP proud. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.